So now that we understand how we need to figure out the interests and behaviors and demographics and targeting options within Facebook to target our first initial audience, get our first conversions, and then start creating warm audiences to get better results, I want to show you how you can use the Facebook's Audience Insights tool to get to these best and most relevant targeting options quite easily. So let's jump there. You can get to the Audience Insights tool from Facebook Business Manager. It would be here within the analysis and report in Audience Insights. So once you open Audience Insights, first of all, I've already removed that, but generally you're going to end up looking at the United States. So here, generally what you're going to face when you open that up, it's going to look like this. So first of all, you want to select your country. So I want to go with Europe. Or let's just go with the United States. But you want to select your countries over here. And if you have a large list of them, that's okay. You can put them here. Age and gender, I generally don't touch because here we are trying to get information. We're not targeting anyone. We're not going to be creating our audiences over here. We're just going to get the data. So unless you are absolutely sure that you, for example, want to advertise only to men, then you can select these. But generally, I like to leave them open. And so the way this works, from this, you can get kind of a general feel of what you get over here. So let's start with something that we know is very, very relevant to our audience. So for example, let's start with a person. That would be Gary Vaynerchuk. When we select Gary Vaynerchuk, we can see that he has an audience as an interest. He has an audience of 2.5 to 3 million people, which are definitely going to be interested in business and marketing. So this is a very good audience to start with. We can see that he tends to lean towards men. It's 66% men, 34% women. And you can see on Facebook, it's kind of the reverse situation. We can see that these people tend to be single and not married, or less of them tend to be married. So this is basically what you see. The blue is Gary Vaynerchuk and the gray is Facebook in general. But still, this is just some general information, and people who follow Gary Vaynerchuk tend to have a university level education, or at least 68% of them do. Now we can see how they look in terms of job titles, and you can see, for example, there's a lot less people in the military than, for example, people who are in sales or in some other areas or lines of work. So these are again not very useful. Where you actually get to the interesting part is when you go over here to page likes. So here you can discover new things that could potentially be good for your targeting options. So we started with Gary Vaynerchuk, but we can see here in the affinity that people who like Gary Vaynerchuk are 119 times more likely than normal people than the average Facebook user to like Tim Ferriss as well. Now that's significant, so let's add Tim Ferriss over here. Eric Thomas is another one who is pretty much similar, and you can see that the affinity score with them is pretty huge. So Eric Thomas, we are going to add him. I just happen to know who he is, so I know. Mark Cuban is another one. Tony Robbins is another one. Now Joe Rogan is not. And the Points Guy, this is a travel blog, travel page, so that's not us. So we need to kind of check them out. So for example, let's say, let's open up, for example, Les Brown or Joe Rogan or the Points Guy. Just take a look at what they are. Now, this is definitely, this guy is a motivational speaker. So maybe we could decide, whether or not we like to add him as an option. This guy is, well, that's Joe Rogan, so we definitely, we're not interested in him, for example. And the Points Guy is some travel blog, so definitely not that. Les Brown is a maybe. So he's more of a motivational speaker, not so much a digital guy. Now, Mark Cuban is a famous investor, a shark guy. So maybe we want to add him. We want to have him here, but that's not necessary. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to add him over there. And we can take a look at some of the others that we can see here. The UFC, definitely not. But you can see here we have some very cool things like Entrepreneur Magazine and Success Magazine. So we could then add those to the media. And you can see over here, if we click to see all, we will see Success Magazine is another one. So we can get these guys, add them over here to the media. You can make your list whatever way you like. You don't have to do it in this very same style. The Publisher Entrepreneur Magazine is definitely a good media for our audience. And let's take a look. Like GoPro is not, definitely not. And you just kind of go through this and see how that works. Now, Audible is another interesting one which could be used very well in combination, because people who read Audible books are interested in education, in learning things. So if they are interested in, let's say, Gary Vaynerchuk and Audible at the same time, that could be something interesting to use. So we can add combinations and just some kind of combo things, and Audible is a good one to add for that. Now, let's see what we have here. Facebook for Business is definitely a good thing, so we are going to do that and put it here. Now, we've got some information from this search here for Gary Vaynerchuk. So let's get rid of him for now and try another one. We'll go with Shopify. This is Shopify, the employer, so we don't want that. And we want Shopify, the interest, right? Because Shopify as employer would be the actual employees of Shopify, which we don't want to do. Now, we have here some this doesn't really make for a very good resource. I expected better, because people who are interested in Shopify would have their online stores, but then that also might be very broad. So that this also kind of can tell you a little bit about how this audience is going to perform, because if it's connected to a lot of other very relevant things, then it might work better. It's kind of an indication, but you never know, and you should always test. Generally, we expect Shopify to work very well, but there's no way to know. So, well, this didn't help too much. So let's try something else. Let's, for example, try another one and go with Facebook for Business. Again, this is the employer, which we don't want to do. we want the internet company Facebook for Business. Right? That's what we want. Additional interests, Facebook for Business. And you can see it's very connected to Gary Vaynerchuk, for example. It's also connected to Shopify. It's also connected to... Let's see, all of them. Small Business Saturday. Now, this is something that I don't know about. Maybe we can check it out and see what it's about. Well, this is not something that we are interested in. So fine, we can move on to the next one. And in this case, let's pick one. We can go with, let's say, Udemy. Let's try one of the competitors. It's a bit sad that you don't have any way of knowing which one it is. And again, of course, I'm going to hit the wrong one. So the first one is again not the one we want. And let's try the third one. That's it. And here we are going to find some other interesting things which we could use. Audible is again popping up, so that could help us discover some more. Tony Robbins is popping up again, so maybe that could be a good next step to see. We have some, Mind Valley is another one, Creative Live, so we can definitely add Mind Valley over here in the competitors, even though they're a bit different. We are just now collecting things, so let's go with well, let's just go with Tony Robbins. Right, there's Tony Robbins over here, and we can see again some other authors, and as you can see, they start to kind of repeat. We have Tim Ferriss, we have Eric Thomas over here, we have Gary Vaynerchuk, and these potentially these other authors could potentially be good targeting options for us as well. Deepak Chopra, which is not very good, but you can see Success Magazine over here, and Robert Kiyosaki could be interesting as well. He's more like a business guy, like more into personal finance and real estate, but we can take a look at him as well. We can see Tim Ferriss is again on the map. And in this way, you just kind of get a good idea of how things work. And just within 10 to 15 minutes, you can figure out which are the most related things that you can target. Another one that you can do is, for example, here I have a good list of competitors for my from my research. So I could start going through those as well. So let's say, for example, I could go with Coursera and see what that will say. Coursera, let's go with the second one, see if that will work. And again, it's going to be the employer. No luck for me today. And should be the first one. No. Right. And here you can see that now I got some interesting results. So we have Udacity, you have edX, we have Khan Academy, LinkedIn Learning, MIT Technology Review. Now, all of these things could be potentially things that are interested for me to explore. Now, Wired is another one which we didn't think about when we were talking about the media. So let's add Wired over here. We have Udacity, edX, Khan Academy. All of these guys, they should be over here in the competitors tabs. As you can see, there's Udacity, there's Show Academy, HubSpot. All of these guys are over here in these competitors of ours. So that's not a problem. TechCrunch is another one which people interested in TechCrunch would definitely be interested in digital business and marketing. So we can add them to the media. And so what you could, what you finally want to do is create something like this. So let's just get rid of this and make a real example to finish off this video so that you know how to kind of put this into practice. So we are creating a new campaign. For this campaign is going to be for Masters Academy. Now we are going to call it Masters Academy course purchases or just purchases. Now, of course, we can use the template that we used. So this is not going to be a CBO campaign, and it's going to be a conversions campaign. So we can call this Masters Academy conversions, or we could even be more precise and say that it's specifically for purchases. We don't have any special ad categories. We're not going to use CBO, and that's fine. And we can move on to the ad set. Now, on the ad set level, what we want to do is select our conversion event, which is going to be the purchase. In this case, we want to again use our name template, and that would be campaign name would be MA, and goal would be purchases. By the way, for those of you who don't know how these names appeared, you can name things within the name template. I know it didn't show you before. I showed you how you can add text fields, but you can also name the text fields from the same place. That's how these guys got their names over here. I set them. They're not default like from Facebook. So now what we want to do is we want to set the general targeting criteria that we have. So that would be, in our case, Europe and North America. And I'm not saying this is a good example. I just want to kind of select something. And we are going to leave the ages for now. We're not going to select any particular ages. Now, generally, when you create these cold audiences, you want to give Facebook the right direction, and you really have to spend some money for them to figure it out. So by adding these interests and behaviors, you're giving them a general direction, and then when you accumulate, first of all, they start showing your ad and start measuring engagement metrics like click-through rates, for example, and they figure out quite quickly to which of these people your ads are relevant, and they start showing them to more of these people. And once they start clicking, coming to your website and start completing further actions like add to carts, purchases, subscriptions, and so on, then they start to show your ads to a better and better segment of these people. This is why for these cold audience, generally it's recommended for you to try the detailed targeting expansion. So this detailed targeting expansion kind of lets Facebook show your ads to more people, which may help you reach your optimization goal. And what that really means is that you can say that you want to target people who are interested in Shopify, but then they are going to say, all right, we get where you're going, but we're going to test that against some other things, which you don't know what they are, but they are somehow related to Shopify, at least in the eyes of Facebook. And then that would broaden your reach. And that's what you want, because generally you want a broad audience. Now, when I have selected half the world, my audience is already broad enough. But let's say if I wanted to just go with a single country, let's say, for example, I want to go with Canada, which I do recommend to do. So let's say we are going to go with Canada over here. And we have 26 million people, so that's completely fine. And now I want to leave the detailed targeting expansion on. And here I want to add one interest. So that would be, let's say, Shopify. We want Shopify the interest, which is very broad. And as you can see, that might not be a good option. We don't know yet. So that's completely fine. And we want to leave the automatic placements for now. Optimization for ad delivery is going to be for conversions. We don't have value yet because our pixel is not populating the values. We don't care about any of that. And we want to give it a small daily budget. So let's say for this case, $5 would be enough. And what you want to do at the end of the day is you want to close that off. And so now we do have our ad set over here. So I don't know what this one is. Yeah, we created this one before. So let's get rid of it. And so then once you created that with one interest inside it, what you want to do is duplicate it. We want to duplicate it, let's say, a maximum of 9 times. So you don't want to test more than 10 things. And so you want to duplicate it. And now you have 9 more. Let's close them up. And now we need to kind of be a little bit more precise on what we're doing here. So that would be Shopify, the first one. Now we'll go to the second one, and we'll go with this one, which is going to be Gary V. Save that guy, edit over here, go and just change that. Everything else is the same, and we just change this guy over here, go with Gary Vaynerchuk as an interest category. Fine, we are done with that guy. Close it up, move on to the next one. And first of all, we want to change the name. And this one would be, for example, entrepreneur. Oops, I failed. So this one is going to be entrepreneur. You just go, edit, scroll down, get rid of Shopify, and add. We want the entrepreneur, the magazine. Cool, that's ready. And that's how you start. And all of these, because our campaign is focusing on purchases, all of these ad sets within that campaign are going to be focusing as a result on the purchases. And what you want to do is you want to test various different audiences in this way. And you test them by setting up your other targeting criteria, and you want to really understand what's the difference between, let's say, Shopify and Gary Vee and Entrepreneur and all of these things that we denoted here. Maybe we can try some of the competitors and so on. So that's one approach. And if you don't have a lot of options, this is generally the best approach, but you should not be testing more than 10, because here's what happens. When you have 10, that's already $50 a day. Now, $50 a day, if you pull up a quick calculator over here, that would be 50 times 30, and you're already at $1,500 per month. So this is what this campaign is going to cost you, and it's also going to cost you a month. So if you have, let's say, $3,000, what you could do is just give them a higher daily budget. So let's say if you want to spend $3,000, you can make these to 10, but really don't go over 10 ad sets, because it's going to be a mess. If you really have to, what you can do, and what we generally end up doing, is make combinations of these guys. So instead of just going for one, so we have here Shopify, Gary Vee, and Entrepreneur, we could do one for competitors. And so let's call this one competitors. And we could have maybe two different groups of competitors, like ones that are more general education, like Udemy, and ones that are some kind of different guys. So, or we could select the competitors and maybe say add something additional that they must also be interested in. So I'll show you how that works. So for example, right now we want to go to these options over here, get rid of Shopify, and we want to add our competitors. So let's add Udacity. I'm sure this is here, so you can see there's two. We want the bigger one. Udacity, we have Udemy. Right, this is the one, and you have to be careful not to go way overboard, because as you can see now, our potential reach is really 26 million people, so that's not very good. And so that's why, and let's say I would add a little bit more of the competitors. Let's just get reminded of who they were. Digital marketer is another one that we can add. I don't know if we're gonna be able to find them. Right, they are a little bit harder to find. So let's just go quickly over to our competitors table and see. Maybe Market Motive could be another one. They're not popping up. LinkedIn Learning could be popping up over here. I know that they are here, so we're gonna have to wait for them to pop up as a result. Really, this Chrome bug is very, very annoying. So that's not very good as an option. And what we can do is, yeah, Coursera should definitely be here. Coursera is an interest. And what we want to do now, since our audience is very broad, as you can see, we have 26 million people here just in Canada, and we had like 30 million people in Canada overall. So what we want to do is narrow the audience and say we want people who are interested in these platforms, but because they teach a broad number of topics, we want to have them also be interested in something else. So let's say that would be marketing or digital marketing. So we want them to be interested in digital marketing. See if that's going to have an effect. Yep, we got them down to 17 million. And let's say they must also be interested in social media marketing. Now, if I click this, look, this will be too much. This did not work. Right? This is just too narrow, so that's not going to work, even though it shows us 17 million people here. And as you can see, because we are using the detailed targeting expansion over here, our audience is being dramatically bigger than normal. So what you want to do is use that later on. And so as you can see, this goes from 130,000 to 17 million people once you click it. So the difference can be dramatic, and you have to be careful with it. So now we have an audience of 130,000 people, and maybe we can remove the social media marketing and say, all right, that's fine. And then maybe we can turn it on, which is not precisely targeting 17 million people. It's that Facebook can potentially reach those people, but they're not, because they are going to be using these options. And these options, when you use the detailed targeting expansions, are recommendations that that Facebook is going to link these people to the other people that are going to show your ads to. But these here are restrictions. So if you say that I don't want anyone under 20, they're not going to show your ad under 20. They're not going to show your ad outside of Canada. And they are only going to use the language that you select and all that. And in this case, we're going to use both genders. But if I say men, it's only going to show my ads to men. And the detailed targeting expansion, as you can see, will not be targeting everyone. So this is restricting the detailed targeting expansion as well. So now again, I can also exclude, for example, my customers from that audience, but I'm just not going to do that right now. And this is kind of how you can make your ad sets into groups. So we have a group where we have competitors as a group where we have various types of interests. That's if you have too many. And generally you want to test them one by one. And if you go with the groups way of doing it, what you need to do is you start with, let's say, 5 groups, separate the budget between them, and you want to get your initial conversions. But then over time, you will see that one of these 5 is performing better. So once you see, for example, that the media is performing better than the competitors, then you can set the media and just break them down, make a separate ad set for each of the options that you put inside of that group of interest targeting options. And you really want to figure out which one is the best performing over there, so that you can optimize your performance. Now, again, it also depends on the size, because sometimes it can be, once you do that, they could be quite small sizes, and the best audience might be a small size. Unfortunately, that's what generally happens. But it also might be a huge size audience, and if everything works, that's fine. And so what you want to do with these types of campaigns is get your initial conversions. Once you get the initial conversions, we're going to go and move on to some more detailed and advanced targeting options like the custom audiences and lookalike audiences and so on. But that's going to be happening over the next videos. Right, so that's everything that you need to know on audience insights and how to kind of organize your ad sets around these interests options that you have there. And pretty much that's everything you need to know on behaviors, interests, and demographics targeting. You know how to discover them, you know how to organize them in ad groups, you know how to test them, you know how to figure out which ones are the best, and now you just need to go ahead and do it.